Well, welcome to this first edition of the Hess Discovery Journal for 2024. My name is Keith Folks, and I am Executive Director and co-founder of the Hess Consortium, and I'll be your host today. I'm very happy to introduce to you our first guest on the journal, Maley Gaik. Maley is Chief Information Officer for St. Xavier University in Chicago, Illinois. Welcome, Maley.
Thank you.
We are so excited to have you with us today. Could you share a little about yourself, your background, and maybe your tenure at St. Xavier?
Sure. My story. See, I started at St. Xavier in 1999. I was hired to finish the implementation of Gaik, our student information system, and our ERP per se. St. Xavier is a small private Catholic institution on the south side of Chicago. It was started in 1846 by the Sisters of Mercy. This is my usual elevator speech about St. Xavier. Probably known as the Chicago's first Catholic university. Most people don't know that. We're about 3,500 students strong, really hold strong to the Mercy mission, which is to serve the underserved. So I've been here almost 25 years, but I still support and oversee the colleague world. They just pretty much added to my duties and changed my title along the way, which happens a lot. So I was really originally hired as the database administrator, eventually became CIO in 2014. So going on 10 years of that. But now I oversee everything in IT, which we kind of call ourselves a three-legged stool. So one of the legs is kind of network and infrastructure and security. Another leg is more the help desk, which we call client services. So nobody calls us helpless desk or anything.
I've heard that before.
Yes. Then we have what we call administrative technologies, which is everything in the colleague world. Excellent. So that's a bit my background per se, though, is I came from a small private Catholic institution and, graduated in the 80s, not to give away my age, but prior to that, I went into other not-for-profits. I did corporate, did not-for-profits, and then came to higher ed, which is a different industry altogether. But I have a Bachelor of Arts, so I have history, sociology, psychology, more of that background, and then went and got an MBA. So I've got kind of a mix of both the business and the tech. And my MBA is an information technology concentration.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Yeah, and you're not alone in that process of a kind of inheriting everything in a small college. You wear a lot of hats, right?
Reward for good work, I guess, is more work.
Exactly. Well, that kind of segues into our next question. Could you share a little bit about your experience as a CIO in small college? Maybe some challenges, successes, surprises, that kind of thing?
Sure. I would have to say, especially because I came from a hospital, I think healthcare is a interesting industry because, really, if you don't do your job, potentially someone can die. Here at higher ed, it's all about the students. It's whatever the student needs. The students are what keep us here. So I appreciated that. I did choose to come to higher ed as an industry. I really thought I wanted K through 12 because I thought seeing little kids with technology would be really cool. But I happened to get this. I think challenges in a small college, and I haven't worked at a bigger one. I think our challenges are usually financial.
Yeah.
And the difficulty with keeping up with the pace of innovation, which is challenging with finance. But the network of CIOs in higher ed, on the flip side, is really strong and rich.
Yeah.
So we do whatever it takes to make positive changes in the lives of students. And I like to say in high touch and high tech ways. But what I think we could offer them, even with financial challenges, is preparing them for the real world. Whether it's a large corporation or nonprofit, they're going to have email. Whether it's, no matter what pathway they go, we're going to expose them to the technology they need to know.
Yeah.
So I do believe at a small, you might not have the resources at hand, but the network in the higher ed industry, and even in small colleges, there's so many of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That you partner with them or you network with them and find how did they get it done. Yeah. Things like Hess brings together all these schools, so you end up talking to someone. This is how we did it.
Yeah.
And And that's what keeps you moving forward. So I don't keeping up with the pace of innovation, I'd have to say is we do it via partnerships and networking.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty proud of that.
That's good. That's good. Well, and that's what Hess is all about, is trying to bring CIOs together to compare notes, to get ideas, to answer questions, peer discussion and collaboration. That's that, so I'm so glad you're a part of us, and you're active in that. I see your posts on the Hess OLC all the time, and I thank you so much for being a part of that online community too, Molly. Well,
That's
so
me.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I've got here's the question. We're starting a process of CIO mentorship and some leadership training in Hess, and we're working on a program. I'm curious, what are some skills that you think are important to develop for aspiring or current CIOs in private higher education? It's a big question.
It is, but I think what totally has helped me is my liberal arts background. So I always say this to students here. We have a very strong student worker technology program here in IT. They're really our front lines, our student workforce. And I'll pluck them from the English department. They don't have to be a computer science major. I think that's one of the skills I think is important for a CIO is the ability to communicate to anyone. I'm not a techie. And some I have met have been so boring, and I hate to say that, but if you've got that really, I'm not at MIT as a CIO, obviously. I just probably not reach up to that caliber, but I can communicate with all levels of technical acumen.
Yeah.
One of my best student workers was a biology major, and I happened to be, I think, fixing a computer in a computer lab, and I was just talking to him. And I said, why don't you come work for IT? And he said, why don't I ever work for IT? And I'm like, because you could communicate.
Yeah.
I think right now the only skill set I need is, can you type? And then I'll show you. I'll teach you all the rest. And he ended up, I know now he works for the Cook County Sheriff's Police in IT.
Oh,
And
wow, that's incredible.
Career. And he was a biology major.
Yeah.
I don't, maybe he aspired to be a doctor, and I just ruined the world of medicine for him. It came from that level of socialization we had, and we all want our student workers to be able to do that, because one of the things you can do is dispel the rumor that anyone's stupid who can't figure out a Zoom meeting or anything like that. That's not reality.
Yeah.
Technology, again, pace of innovation, it comes at you so fast. But one of the things you should be able to do as a CIO is be able to just communicate. And technology is here to improve your life. One of a great mentor of mine always said she loves computers because they don't show up late for work. They don't come in crabby. They don't need their coffee before they can talk to you. I'm always like, the computer is only going to do what you tell it to. So
Exactly.
And so I think I'd recommend the ability to communicate to all levels, from the maintenance worker and groundskeeper to the CEO. Our last president, she always said the computer to her was a word processor. She had no interest in learning anymore, but that's okay. I gave her the best word processor ever, and she left here. She was our interim president at the time. The only other skill that I think is really important for a CIO that's been really beneficial for me, and it came really from my MBA, was budget management.
Yeah.
I think really understanding, and I learned this from another mentor. That would be my one piece of advice: pick and choose your mentors wisely. A CFO that I was reporting to at the time, I showed him the contract from, maybe it's Zoom, or maybe it was some other third-party provider that we needed. And he looked at the contract and he said, how many times have you gone back to them to try to improve on this bottom line? And I said, oh, I didn't.
Yeah, right.
10 years ago, I think it was actually our Slate implementation or something. And Slate presented us, here's what it is. He said, how many times have you gone back to them? And I said, well, I didn't. This is what they told me they charge. And he said, tell them to sharpen their pencil a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's exactly the words I used.
Yeah.
And probably 3 iterations later, it was $50,000 later less. to get our business. And that kind of combination of communication with some budget management skills allowed us to do 2 or 3 other things with the money we saved
Yeah,
at initial
absolutely.
contract. So that's just a couple little things that helped me along the way.
Yeah,
But I guess my bottom line is picking and choosing your mentors wisely, and I do. I'm constantly learning. I watch a great speaker and say, what can I pick up from that I could do?
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I completely agree. Somebody told me the primary job of a CIO is to be a translator,
yeah,
right? You translate the technical into words that non-technical people can understand. So communication is really a key. So what advice would you give aspiring CIOs interested in technology leadership at their institutions? Maybe they're students, or maybe they're other directors or staff professionals. What would you tell them?
I think I go back to my pick and choose your mentors wisely. Find, network, talk to your peer. We call them peers and aspirants.
Well,
So, we talk to a lot of people that are like St. Xavier. Well, what do we shoot for a little bit more and talk to some aspirants? How did they get there?
yeah, yeah,
I do a lot of community type work with, I'll say Hess is awesome. I think EduCause is a great resource for anyone in higher ed. But I also know I'm not saying know my limits, but I also know, kind of what the University of Notre Dame is doing in technology is probably not what St. Xavier could be doing in technology. So I kind of know what to not waste, not waste time, but
yes,
what would benefit where I'm at the most. So networking in the communities that higher education provides, because no other industry, in my opinion, and I've been in 4 or 5 different industries, advertising, healthcare, no other industry is like higher ed in that they share their success stories so much without that fear of corporate secrets getting out.
right, exactly,
They
exactly.
don't keep their successes to themselves. They embrace sharing and caring, and I absolutely love that. So if you're and I work with many introverts because some programmers do like to be behind that keyboard, and so I don't put them out, and they don't want to be on stage. I
Right.
don't do that. I know your kind of know your audience and know. I believe in setting people up for success. I think managers need to be people,
Yeah,
people,
yeah,
and I make sure. Absolutely love my Christine. She's a programmer. I had everyone do that Briggs Myers test or something, and found out, okay, Christine's more of an introvert. Even though she's one of the best trainers I have, I'm not going to place her in the classroom because that doesn't make her happy.
yeah,
And she's not
right.
going to stay here. She's not going to be here. So I constantly say, what do you want to be when you grow up? What can I do to help you get there?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, so I don't know. Many colleges have already been through huge projects and implementations, and they've shared code with me that help us get through it.
right,
Uh,
right.
so if I can help someone else cross a finish line, if it's an aspiring CIO who's saying, what did you do to get there? I would be more than happy to talk to them. But
That's nice.
for me, it was mostly talking to other CIOs who had been there.
Yeah,
I've asked a couple, there's a CIO from Wheaton College. I asked her to lunch when she first got there. How'd you get here? And this
yeah,
is when I was a director of IT at the time. And she shared her story. I know she has since moved on. I did the same to the CIO at Aurora University.
yeah,
So it's a wonderful place to work because of the camaraderie.
yeah,
I When I worked at a hospital, called another hospital to ask for help, and there was no they
yeah,
weren't sure what they did, as if I was stealing their patients. I mean, I wasn't going over there putting pushing the bed out of the doorway. I wasn't robbing them of clients, but it's interesting because in enrollment, you want a student to come here, not over
yeah.
there,
Oh, yeah.
and yet people. I've seen people say, you know what, you might be better off at the community college down there.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's just so
Exactly.
interesting.
Yeah.
I
It's an amazing industry. It's an amazing community.
It is.
And
We shouldn't be.
yeah, it's been my life. It really has been my life. And I think that private colleges are specifically unique in that way. Some larger institutions, they tend to be a little bit more protective. Although generally they're pretty good about sharing also. There are some things they won't share. So it's an
Right.
interesting
It is
thing.
interesting.
Yeah.
I know when I first got here, I was charged with finishing. I was really hired to DBA project manager of finishing the colleague implementation so that the other project manager could go back to her day job. So they actually like just hired someone to do it. And we came up with a mantra because the product name is colleague. We always said, to work in colleague, you must be a good colleague.
Mhm.
And we had everyone watch It's a Wonderful Life, so they understood what an integrated database is. George
Right.
Bailey isn't there, then this happened, this happened, this happened. You
Right.
change
Right.
something in colleague, the ripple effect might be. So we had a lot of little, who moved my cheese type uh, sessions.
I love that. That's wonderful.
It still holds true today, though. It really does.
Yeah.
So I
And
think,
I love your approach to staffing. One of the best technology professional leaders that I've ever had. She was actually a philosophy major, so it's just wonderful to have people like that that are from different backgrounds and can add different nuances to your operation. It's very true.
well, small private faith-based institutions are usually liberal art focused. And I wanted to let people know I was a history major and I'm a CIO.
Yeah.
You can do, and our interim president was a history major. So when she held up the laptop I gave her and said, "This is just a word processor to me. All I'm going to use is email, and I'm going to type up reports for the board."
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, "Okay, that's awesome. It could
That's
do a
good.
lot for you, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's
Whatever
wonderful.
works." I love technology probably because of that one mentor I had who said the computer doesn't talk back to you, doesn't need coffee, it's not never late for work.
Right. Right.
So I want people to like it because a lot of people don't like it. It's
Yeah. Well, and now we're getting into the era of your computer does the work for you, which is a little terrifying and at the same time nice to some degree.
right.
So that's good.
Yeah.
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 Molly, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for joining us for this first Hess Discovery Journal today. And I thank everyone for watching this first episode of this new resource. This Hess Discovery Journal is really a new resource interviewing experienced CIOs like Molly in private higher education about their top of mind topics, as well as other guests who are doing innovative things in higher education technology. Molly, thank you so much again. And I've already tried to draft her into our mentorship leadership program as one of our kind of instructor facilitators. And I hope you could join us with that too. So thank you, Molly. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us, and have a great day.